Hey everybody, this is Jacob Cowger, aka Sparkles. Nicholas Gatrell, aka Scraps, started a pretty good trend yesterday, getting everybody that is a clown and people that want to become clowns involved in putting their makeup on. And I'm having connection issues. Can anybody hear me? All right, there it goes. So I decided that I wanted to follow that trend, and I seen Nicholas show how he did his hobo makeup, and Matt showed how he did his August makeup, but I haven't seen many people show how to do a Whiteface makeup. So I figured I would get started and show you guys how to do it. So what I normally do is I start off by cleaning my face off with a little bit of sea breeze, which I should have had prepared. And I just wipe my face off, get all the oils, all the grease, all that junk off my face before I put the makeup straight on. And then from there, I start off with Ben Nye Clown White. I refer to this stuff as a white tar compared to like Mayron Clown White, which is a little softer, a little greasier. With me having oily skin, it tends to float on my skin and not stay on. Which, when I do my Clown White, what I do is I take a scoop out of it, which is... Toby, and you got to tell me what Buntaga means, by the way. But this is called a Buntaga glob. And just put it in the palm of your hand like this. Put your hands together and warm it up. So just like that. And once that's all nice and warm, you can feel that friction of the makeup in your hands. And you just take it and put it on. There's a lot of people that just take a little bit at a time and put it on like this. My hands cramp up when I go to do it like that. But just taking that white, getting it on, getting it spread out so it's not so thick, and getting it rubbed into the cracks, which I hate to admit, I'm starting to get those wrinkles. Get it right up into that eyelid there. There we go. And rub it into the forehead there. And normally when I do my makeup, I go all the way down my neck into my collarbone area, just to make sure that if my shirt moves, it doesn't ruin the illusion and the effect of having all that white makeup in there. And because I wear this new wig, I have to paint my ears white. So now that I got it all spread out, just like that, I'll just take my hands and clap a couple times, give myself an applause, and just pat it out. You don't need to give yourself a black eye, but just enough that you can pat it out. Get all those streaks and swirls and thick spots out. Hey, Sean, look who's talking. hard part for me is I don't know where to stop. But I'm getting there. Alright. And like I said, normally I would go down my neck further, but since I'm going to be taking this off right away, I'm just going to leave it as is. And then I just take a towel and wipe my hands off. Just to take all that sticky off of there. And make sure you put your cap back on your makeup before you powder. That could lead to a mess. So then, once I get my white on, I just take a baby wipe. Need to make sure they're nice and soft and nice and wet. And just stretch it over my finger nice and tight. And then I can cut out the bulk of my design. Now, if my fingernails are a little sharper or a little longer, usually I can get a nice sharp edge like I did on my right eyebrow versus my left. And not have to go back and clean it up with a Q-tip. Hey, Kim and Skeet. So I'm going to do the same thing. Now in the corner of my mouth, I just take and cut it out just like this. And then I'll come back with a Q-tip and sharpen everything else up. Just like that. So the trick is to a mouth is to try and make it work with your mouth and kind of make it look like you're smiling at the same time. So that way my mouth will work with mine. Jackpot's watching. Hey, Jackpot. When I first started clowning, oh gosh, I was probably 5 or 6 years old. There was a fellow named Fred Waddell who went by Jingles. And I probably annoyed that man beyond belief. To the point that I got him to teach me how to be a clown. And he was a shrine clown. And that led me to become a shrine clown as soon as I became of age. And the rest is history 30-some years later. So what I usually do from this point is I will take Ben Nye super white powder and I'll set my white just by tapping it with a powder sock. You don't want to breathe it in if you can avoid it. And then once I get the powder on, I just go back and I kind of feel for some gooey spots to make sure I get it all covered. And I'll also press that powder into the creases and the cracks in my face, like around my eyes and up in the wrinkles in my forehead. I was turned on to the Super White Powder by Toby Kidd. And that stuff is amazing. I mean, the Midnight Clown White is pretty white as it is, but it really adds a nice bright white finish to your makeup instead of that grayish color that you get from the baby powder. So we'll put that stuff away there. And normally I would let this sit for, oh Joyce, if you only knew what kind of mess I make. At this point, I usually would let my makeup set for 5-10 minutes and let that powder really soak into the makeup. But for television speed, I'm going to go ahead and knock that off. Never thought about trying to puff. I might have to give that a shot, Sean. Is that what you used? And I can't say enough good about these powder brushes. This is the goat hair powder brush. The only ones that I know that sell them for sure is Trish from Mooseburger and myself. They're pretty hard to come by. But boy, they're worth it. And once I get my white dusted, I toss my white brush into my makeup case and I switch to my color brush so that way I don't contaminate my white powder brush with the brush I'll use for my colors. Wipe my hands off here. And then I usually grab a piece of the highly coveted toilet paper. I'm still trying to understand that whole craze of why toilet paper is so hard to come by. But I always just wipe my brush off just to get a nice, sharp, clean edge on it. And then I use Whiteface blue for my eyebrows. And I just warm it up, just kind of like you would for your white. So far I just work it in a jar and get it nice and soft. After I get it all nice and loaded up, then I'll go and I'll start painting my eyebrows. Nothing pretty. And then I'll go and get those edges. There we go. For me, the eyebrows are the hardest thing to get even. Even after doing the same face for 30 years, you always have that one spot that's a challenge. And then once I get it all painted, you can kind of tell it's kind of off balance. So I just take my brush and I'll just go back and pat it. Just like I do with my white to even out that blue. And then switch over to the other. The reason I like to slap that blue on my skin is it also warms it up on the other side. Makes it just a little softer and easier to work with. And I'm at the end of my rope on my blue there, so it's time to grab a little bit more. The big trick is with your color is don't add too much. You're better off to start with a little and add more as you need it than to have a giant glob of makeup on your brush and try and take it back off as you go. And I mean, for sharp lines, the best way to get a nice sharp line is to use the edge of your brush instead of the width of the brush. So now I got the part above my own eyebrow covered. I'll just add a little bit more and go back and rub that makeup into my eyebrow. And you want to try and make sure when you're doing any part of the face that has hair that you rub it in all the way down to the skin or the bottom. Nicholas Gatrell pointed that out yesterday. Not something you really think about too much. You just kind of automatically do it. So my blue is done for my eyebrows there. And then I'll go ahead and wipe my brush back off just to take that excess makeup back off. And then grab my red. The brushes that I'm using here are a Mayron makeup brush. It's a Mayron 3. This one's rubbed off. 314 is the number I use. And that seems to be my fix-all brush that I can do just about anything with. Again, I'm using Whiteface Red, which is essentially Mayron. Whiteface was made by Leon McBride, who is no longer making Whiteface. So now that I got a little bit of red off of my brush, I'll try and hit my edges of my nose to get a nice sharp line. Just like that. And then I can go back and fill it all in. Quick. And less chances of me going outside the line since I already did the outline of my nose. Now on the bottom of my nose, I try to get a nice sharp line across the bottom. I don't go back all the way on my nose, just enough to make it look nice and clean. There it is. And then before I do my mouth, I'll wipe it off again, give myself a nice sharp edge. I'm going to turn some air on here. Work that into my brush here. Now I can see I got a little bit of sweat starting. So wipe that off there because you don't want to put your makeup on. Oh, and Char, I can make you look pretty awesome. So I always start with the outline on my mouth. Not sure what that was, but I had a little fuzzy come and tickle my nose. Jason, on my white, I use Ben Nye Clown White. The blue is Whiteface blue, and same for the red, which is essentially Mayron. And then for powder, I use a Ben Nye Super White powder, and I'll be using the Ben Nye neutral set for my colors. Now, I can't say enough good about the powders because I used baby powder for a long time. And I found out that the powder from Ben Nye is why the brushes and not the pencils. Because a brush is much more precise and you can control it so much better than a pencil. Never been a fan of a pencil. I do have them, but I've never used them. Sean. But the powder from Ben Nye is so much finer than the baby powder. Since the baby powder is so much coarse, it doesn't really get into the makeup as well, and it doesn't get into the cracks and stay there. I find my makeup wears for 14 to 16 hours and looks just as good as it did when I put it on to begin with for the day. Compared to wearing baby powder, it doesn't seem like it holds up as well. I know it varies from person to person and how their skin types are, but once I tried it, I've never been able to go back. Plus, the super color powders keep my colors nice and bright. Something else that's important when it comes to any type of a clown face, whether it be a goose or white-faced or hobo or tramp or character clown, is to find a face that works for you, refine it, make sure it is everything that you need it to be and want it to be, and then stick with it. I can't mention how many clowns out there that I know that have a different face when they go out every time. And that gets confusing for kids and adults and people as to, is that the same clown we saw at that birthday party when you change your face? So I always have my same makeup on. I always have my blue hair. My costume changes a little bit, whether I wear a full vest or no vest or short sleeves or long sleeves or vice versa. But my colors and everything is still the same, to the point you could tell that it's me when I go out. I'm going to finish filling this in here. And another thing to note is a professional clown always has a white top lip. I'm not sure where that came from, but it's been a rule that's been followed for years and years and years. And the top lip rule was taught to me by Frosty Little, which seems like many, many years ago. There we go. How many of my Ringling Clown friends remember Frosty Little's rule with the sea breeze? How it fixes anything. Matt, yes, I did dye my hair blue at one point, but after the Christmas season, my hair was so fried this time around from being Santa Claus and bleaching it, I had to shave most of it off and let it kind of grow back. But boy, it was a lot more fun when I had my hair blue. It was about 5 inches long on the sides. So another fun thing that I do with my neutral set powder is on my super white powder, I buy a white dress sock to keep my white powder in. And in my neutral set powders, I buy a black sock. That way, if I happen to set the two down on the same table and forget which one's which, I can always remember the colored sock is my color powder and the white sock is my white powder. I recommend the powder sock, Jason. I found that using a dress sock works pretty good rather than the old-fashioned sports sock. So I literally can just take it and just press it like that, and I'm done. I have to go back and just kind of touch it up in areas like in the corners of my mouth and my lip, but it works so much easier. A lot of people think that when it comes to powder, you really got to lay it on crazily heavy, and just a little bit is all it takes to set that makeup. I mean, there's a lot of people that lay it up here and they really dust it and shake it. I mean, you could do that, but you're essentially just wasting powder at that point. And it does make one heck of a mess. So again, I will let my powder set in for a few minutes. But for TV speed, I'm going to take my separate brush I use for my powder and for my colors and just go back and knock that out. You don't have to be very gentle with it. You could really knock that out of there. And I go back and hit the rest of my face. as I'm doing that, just to make sure I break all that extra powder off. And then break all that extra stuff out of my ears there. Now at this point you have a couple different options. Some people will take a wet washcloth and dampen their makeup to take that powder out. I tend to leave my powder sitting in the makeup as it is and let the oil from my skin set the makeup the rest of the way. Makeup tends to hold on your face a lot longer. Doesn't break down as easy once you do the initial, your last powdering. It takes a little bit more of a beating, I guess I'll say. This point you could touch your face. Not recommended to scratch. If you get an itch, just kind of tap it. But at this point, I mean, you can eat, drink, laugh, talk, take a pie or two or three to the face, and your makeup should hold up all day. If you want to make it hold up a little bit longer, and I think I don't have it in my case right now, there's a stuff called barrier spray from Mayron, and you could just do a couple spritzes over your makeup to kind of give it that barrier between touching it and all that. Ben Nye also makes one called Final Seal. You have to try both of them, find out which one works best for you. I found out that the Ben Nye version doesn't hold up as well on me as Mayron does. Mayron kind of smells a little weird, but the Ben Nye smells like mint. So, yeah, I agree. I love barrier spray. You can also put it on under your makeup before you put your makeup on if you have issues breaking out or your pores or other skin issues. So you can kind of sandwich it in between. My wife must have been watching from the other room. But this is what I normally would use. And it's actually going to go in my makeup kit right now. But yeah, usually it's one spray, two sprays, three, so 4 sprays is what it usually takes me to do my whole face. But I love it, and it really works great. So at this point, I'll let you see my makeup kit, which I have to say is the cleanest it has ever been. But plenty of Q-tips, and when I do my Auguste, I keep my flesh tone and shaving supplies and different glues and removers for if I ever do pop on a nose. And then I usually lay a towel down just in case to keep everything clean. Now, I will say a couple different things about when I wear my makeup. A lot of times there's days where I'm doing a quick 1-hour birthday party and I don't need to wear my real heavy duty makeup. A lot of times when I do that, I will wear Kryolan Clown White. It's a real soft white, but it's not the bright, what I'll call a neon white, like Ben Nye. If you put the two together, Kryolan looks like an off-white. But when you use that super white powder, the super white powder changes that color to essentially look like the Ben Nye white that I'm wearing now. So at this point, I would just pop on my wig and my costume, and which I got my costume behind me ready to go, but today I'm not going to necessarily need it. But I hope this helps, and I challenge all of my clown friends, that does mean you, Sean, to chime in, show how you do your makeup, and let's help everybody learn during this time where we're really not doing a whole lot. We're all sitting at home. Instead of being a negative thing, let's turn it into a positive thing. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to send me messages. And I challenge all my shrine clown friends too, as well as my professional clown friends. Give it a shot. Hashtag no frowns, just clowns. I love it. I'm going to add that hashtag to this post. So if anybody has any questions, whether you want to know the differences between Mayron or Ben Nye or Krylon or Jim Howell even, shoot me a message. I own a costume shop and a clown supply, so I deal with all that makeup on a regular basis, and I'm happy to help you and make sure you get something that's going to work for your face instead of giving you something greasy. So I hope you all have a great day. I hope you all picked up a few tips. And if you have any questions or I can help you in any way, just give me a holler. I'm happy to help, and I'm always here. Have a great day, guys.